Hi there, welcome to this Integr8tor 2022.06 release overview. My name is Dirk Leroy and I'm with Ucamco in Ghent, Belgium. What I would like to do in this brief presentation is to take you around some of the new features and enhancements that we have put in this version. And to do so, we have this PowerPoint presentation here, which I'm going to use to get us there. If we have a look at the highlights of this version, you'll find them here on the first slide. We have a Java 17 upgrade under the hood. There is new data handling capabilities for Gerber archives that we want to talk about. We have some extended functionality under the customer profiling license. There's a couple of things to be said about performance optimization. There is a new version of Checkpoint, and I would also touch upon a number of code fixes that have found their way into this release. So item number one is the Java 17 upgrade. As we said, this Integr8tor version 2022.06 now has Java 17.0.2 on board. It is the currently most recent long-term support Java version available, and that is of course the reason for, or one of the main reasons for building it in. As you may remember, one or two Integr8tor versions ago, we did the upgrade from Java 8 that was to Java 11. But now, under these new circumstances, with Java 17 being the new LTS, we've decided to put the 17 version under the hood. This version embeds the latest code patches and security updates, and with Premier support from Oracle until this September 2026, and an extended support until September 29. This should continue to be the case for many years to come. We have all come to appreciate in this day and age software and software modules which are secure and up to date in terms of security. So you will be pleased to hear and to read that Java 17 is currently the best to be had from Oracle. The Java 17 is not entirely new. It has a general availability date back in September 2021, which is of course also important, as you want it to gather some mileage, of course, before you embed it into an application like Integr8tor, so as to make sure that the version shows adequate solidity and robustness. We ship this version together with this version of Integr8tor. We ship it together with a new version of UCamX, our CAM software. UCamX 2022.06, of course, the same version. And you will be pleased to hear that also there we have embedded the Java 17 GDK distribution, so that we guarantee maximum compatibility between the two packages, which makes life also a little bit easier for those amongst you who have to take care of the automation and the interoperability between the two programs. If you care to read or to learn more about it, just go to this website. And you will find basically the same information as I just told you in the overview. We are looking at here at version 17 LTS is long-term support, became generally available September, and then the Premier support and extended support dates you will find here. As you see, there are more recent or more higher version numbers of Java, but none of these are foreseen to be long-term support, and the one that is foreseen to take over from Java 17. That will be Java 21, but that's not due out until September 23. Yeah. So other than that, there is basically very little you're going to see or to notice about this, other perhaps than maybe if you look at your job handler, if we can go back far enough, you would see that during startup it would talk about this build 1702, which means that you're all set and ready to go. So when we turn to the next one, or let us turn to the next one, which is the new data handling capabilities for Gerber archive. And in this Integr8tor version 2022.06, we have built-in added intelligence to be able to differentiate between single and panel layouts, which are contained within the same zip file. An increasing number of these Gerber archives, when they come in, contain both the single image of a PCB as well as either a panel layout or an assembly panel layout, or sometimes it's a coupon which is in there, and either it's in two separate directories within the zip, where one will say I'm the single image and the other one will be the panel or the coupon. But sometimes it's more sophisticated and the panel is inside the single image and blah blah blah. Now, traditionally, we have always picked up the layers from both layouts, so from the single as well as the panel layout. And sometimes that was at the expense of the stack-up results, the first pass hit rates, and the processing time, because if you start mingle layers which are not meant to go together, then all of a sudden there is a lot more to do, and it takes more time to get to the bottom of things, let's say. So that's why what we have done is we now analyze the incoming archive to see if we can detect things like single image, panel, coupon, and that sort of thing. And when we do, what we do is we take a single image and we will demote all the rest, whether that's be a panel or that's going to be a coupon, and we make sure it gets out of harm's way. As a net result, of course, as we just said, this is going to reduce the runtime of such combined archives, as well as the amount of interactive work, because in some cases the system would stop. I would ask you as an operator to go in and to sort out some of these layers which it cannot qualify or which don't seem to make sense. So if you filter this, or by filtering this out up front, it's a benefit that we have further down the road in terms of both interactive work, but also the quality of the analysis, more particularly the first pass analysis. So just in goes the data and out comes the full and complete result. Now, of course, if there is if we detect such an archive or such a situation, we don't want to let it go by unnoticed, so to speak, and there will be appropriate flags or messages to the user to indicate that a particular archive contained both a single image as well as a panel layout. And maybe we can have a look at here are some of the archives I am using in this video, and if we look at the this one here, the ERA7450, what you will have, or what you will find in there, is a bunch of extended Gerber files, and embedded within, so in this case it's not even a separate directory, but inside or amongst the single image Gerber files there is another zip file which contains some other data. Now, if my memory does not fail me, I think in this case it is not a panel, but it's a coupon, or a sort of coupon. So this is the same archive, the ERA7450, which I have thrown in, and as you will see in the input remarks, if all goes well, we have a mention that multiple Gerber input folders were detected, and that it has moved one of those. In this case, it's not really a folder, it's a zip file, but it ranks as the same thing, and that it has moved one of these out of the way. So if you saw this and you were interested in knowing what the other one was, you would still have the ability to go back, or you would still know that something extra is in there in this archive, so it wouldn't pass unnoticed. If we go back to the file list, you would see that from a first pass, we would get the stack up. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger, like this. We would get the stack up of the single image as we would normally want, the individual layers being displayed, the masks, the netlist reference, whatnot. And at the bottom here, you see that there is a number of drawings. And if you look at it, there is a lay_1p here. And if we zoom out a little bit, as I said, this looks like the corresponding coupon for layer 1, which should then probably be placed at some point on the panel together with this part of the layout, and then a second one with a second, and a third with a third, and so on and so forth. So it's basically, as I said, in this case it's not a production or an assembly panel, but it's the coupon information that should get onto the panel, or at least that the customer has provided to serve one purpose or other. All right, let's go back to this one. So really what we try to achieve with this is making sure that jobs get through easier, with less hassle, and that the results that come out there are basically prime quality, the way you are used to seeing results of coming out of Integr8tor. The next one, which I would like to mention, is an item which I called here extended functionality under the customer profiling license. Now, maybe not every one of you knows about this customer profiling license. This in itself is not new. It's something that we have had, or Integr8tor has had, as an optional license. And what does it do? Customer profiling allows you to make specific configurations of software modules depending on who the customer is. As you know, when you submit a job at Integr8tor, you can fill out the customer name, and what this system does, the customer profiling, will allow you to say, okay, if my customer is going to be XYZ, then I would like this layer rename script or this tool file to be used during input, that sort of thing. Yeah. So that in itself, as I said, is not new. It has existed for many years, but what we do in this version is that we have been adding some extra functionality to this customer profiling license. As you see here, up until now, the software modules that could be configured under this system of customer profiling were dynamic panel optimizer, the thing where we calculate assembly panels which then go into production panels. You could do separate layer renaming scripts depending on customer. Tool tables are things that are used, or is something that is used to do drill tool compensation if you want to do this up front while you are submitting your data. And the fourth one so far was wheel files that have to do with the XF import. It's a bit of an exotic one, this one, but just for the sake of completeness. Now, to this list of 4, what we do is we have added 2 more modules, which from now on will behave differently under this license, under the customer profiling license, depending on what you enter as a customer name. No? Panel config is basically something which translates into a file you may have or you may know. It's called panelconfig.xml. It's basically a setup. If we go to the relevant directories, that would be here probably. Yeah. It's an XML file that we used to have before, or if you don't have the DPO option, the dynamic panel optimizer option, then panel config is basically the system where you are allowed or where you are enabled to make your own or to define your frames, so to speak, your production panels. Okay. So that's the panel config bit. The other one is the QED conditional formatting, and the QED conditional formatting, if you allow me just to go here for a brief moment, is basically many of you, I guess, will know and use this. It's the item that allows you to have on your report to have these red cells to flag something out of the ordinary or something critical. Yeah, so that's the conditional formatting. Up until now, the panel config and the conditional formatting setup was something that we had system-wide. So you could have only one of those and only one of those, and it would always be using these settings or these definitions. And as I said, with this version of Integr8tor 2022.06, what we have now done is we have allowed you to make this customer dependent. The way to set this up is relatively or quite straightforward. In fact, you will definitely know the webinf directory. From there, there is this setups directory. In setups, you can have custom, or you have custom as the next directory. And if under this custom directory you go to, or you create a directory profiles, that's where, or that's the place that this is the directory where you can then actually create customer names, which will then contain, be it the panel config, the conditional formatting, or any of these 4 other items which were already supported in earlier versions. Yeah. So that's the setup, and as we said, it does require an optional license, which is, well, not part of the basic integrator package. Briefly back to here. For when could this be of interest to you? It's definitely a nice option for brokers or EMS companies that have to deal with different fabricators, because every fabricator will run his own panel sizes and will have his capabilities. One will be able to do more, the other one will perhaps have more difficulty in producing a certain job. And if, for instance, you think of panel yields, or if you think of spaces and annual rings, with this system, what you can now do is just by varying the customer name or submitting data for a specific customer, you will now take into account his capabilities and his panel setups, so that you can see easily what the technical bottlenecks are, or what the panel yields are for a given job at a fabricator A, B, or C. But also, if you like a regular fabricator yourself, of course you have your own production, or if you have your own production, that's relatively fixed. That doesn't change. You don't need to have conditional formatting. That changes for that particular aspect. But some of you may have a Chinese partner or a number of Chinese partners with which they work, and then at that point it may become interesting to see how would the job behave at partner A, partner B, or partner C. So that's the whole idea of this thing. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to my integrator to have a look at this. Let's see, if we go to the job queue, we should be having here a job which has been submitted for customer A. And the same job basically, because you see the zip is, or the original data is the same thing. The same job, sorry, that has been submitted a second time, but for customer B. And if you would look at the QED for, I think we are at B. I just made some silly entries in this conditional formatting. And one of the things that I did is like the copper to copper clearance. I said if it's less than 175 microns, then in my report it should show red, which it does. And if I look at, uh, let's go back here. If I now look at the same job, but then for customer A, that I have submitted as a different customer name. If we would go down here, you would see that the same values, 150, of course it's the same job, so that would be that would make sense. It has the same values here. That these are not in red because in my conditional formatting for my customer A, I set the copper to copper clearance to, I can't remember, I think it was 75 microns or so. Yeah, but definitely this was above threshold, so it doesn't need to go red, whereas in the other one it is supposed to go red. And the nice thing, of course, is that just by going here and by doing a modified job, if I would change the name from customer A, I would now say, well, maybe it's more something for fabricator B or partner B. What you will see is that we don't have to redo the complete analysis. Of course, the analysis data is there. What we will do is we will regenerate a number of outputs and other related stuff. And one of these things that is regenerated is also this QED. So if all goes well, now I have, of course, customer A, and as a result, the red cells from before, they should have disappeared. And as you can see, they have. Yeah. So there's something maybe that can be of interest and that can make life easier in a number of situations. Where is my PowerPoint? Let's go back to the PowerPoints. That was about what we just had, the extra functionality under customer profiling. Performance optimization. It's a bit of an evergreen. We always try to do a number of things that can speed up the process. And in this particular version, what we did is we have optimized the generation of the PCB layer images that we use in Cockpit Job Editor, in the layer structure editor. Now the generations or this type of image that we use there is the SWF, and it's on certain data. The generation of this type of images is quite CPU intensive. Now, what we have come to find is that in a number of cases we were generating these images, whereas basically we don't use the image afterwards because they're not getting displayed or they are of no practical use in the, for instance, in the layer structure editor. So sometimes the system was putting in quite some CPU cycles to get this thing all generated for obviously no purpose. And in this 2022.06 release, that is something that we have optimized, and we are now skipping the conversions of those layers because, as we said, they're not eligible for display in one of the applications anyway, so why bother? Now on jobs with, how would I call them, which have a series of informational layers, and I'll show you in a minute, informational layer, that has actually proven, or that proves to be a very significant optimization that can lead to significant time gain. If I go back to this one, first let me show you where we use these images. If you let me take this job into the job editor and you go to layers here. Yeah, so this is where we use these images. And as I said, not all of them or not everything is in a job is being displayed here. So what's the point of generating them in the first place, certainly if they are processor intensive. Yeah. So that's where we use them. And the typical type of data which causes the system to put in quite some work is what we call these informational layers, and this is like an example of an informational layer. This is now this is the PDF version, so that exists, and also for this particular case, because it's a drill drawing, we have generate these the SWF images, but a number of other layers that often contain like these text and other bits and pieces of information which do not directly relate to the actual layout. If you have a number of them in an archive, they will tend, or that will tend to take up some of your processing time, and it's exactly that we have optimized out in this 2022.06 release of Integr8tor. All right. Let's go back to this one and turn to the next one, which is the new version of Checkpoint. Checkpoint, most of you, I would hope, have it. It's this extra tool by which you can go and look at locations from the data analysis locations which are not part of the QED. At the bottom of the QED, you will remember there is these static images. Checkpoint is an application that will allow you to step through the data on the live, and it will take you to a number of these other positions, which, as I said, we cannot contain on the PDF report. The reason for having a new Checkpoint version is twofold. Basically, because it's a Java application, and we also wanted to be it on Java 17, in line with our integrated product and our UCAMX, and also a number of you had put in a request to actually also show paste layers, if there are paste layers in a job. And the reason for wanting paste layers may vary, but one of the reasons that we have heard is that it's interesting to see the paste layer in combination with the outer layer, for instance, or in combination with the drill layer, to judge about more complex things or complications like the via and PAT technology, whether that is there and whether that has an impact on the paste and then maybe on the stencil and things that you may want to know at the time that you're doing or preparing the quotation. Excuse me. I think we have one here that has paste layers, and basically I will just let you have a glance at it. As I said, this is also a Java application, so it's being started up separately from the rest of Cockpit. It's not one of these embedded editors that we have in there. And as soon as it is going to appear, you will recognize it, I'm sure. So this is the application where you see the layout and where you can go, okay, where are the line widths and where is this and where is that, and then you can scroll through from one to the next and blah blah blah. But what we wanted to point out is that, of course, it is Java 17 based, and in the job editor you will now see these paste layers. So if you care to visualize those, you could just tick on one of the boxes here, and then, for instance, in combination with your drill, that is the unplated one. Maybe we can do the plated one as well. There you go. So that will allow you to have a better view on where is the paste, is it affected by via in PAT and whatnot. As I said, it's something that a number of our customers have or had asked for to incorporate. Right, I think that brings us to the last part, which is the code fixes. Now, as always, for a release, there is a separate document that describes all of the fixes that have gone into the version, and I only want to touch upon a few here. because they seem quite important. There was an issue where an edit on a drill diameter in the drill editor in Integr8tor was not picked up correctly, or it got lost somewhere along the way again. So that's being sorted out, or that has been sorted out, sorry. There was an item where oblongs, so boxes, the slots for the drill, that could lead to false netlist compare errors. So that's another thing that has been looked at and resolved. There was an issue when a zip file or an archive had strange, or in this case it was parentheses concretely, where if that was in the name of the job inside the archive, that could lead to some trouble. We had a case where if the archive name contained a plus, then some of the items in the layer structure editor, you know, where we were showing these SWF images a minute ago, where that would fail because of the plus sign. So, as I said, it's not the idea to go through all of them. Please refer to the separate document, and that should allow you to see which items have been addressed for this version. As always, we thank you for choosing UCAMCO product. Please install the new version as soon as you can, or at your earliest convenience. And I think that's it as far as I'm concerned. I would like to thank you. I hope you have found this video useful, and we meet again soon. Thank you.